Good morning and welcome to BeeferLink TV, your daily dose of industry information. This episode is part 5 of our insurance series, and Alan Peel from World Cargo Logistics joins us today to talk about the handling aspect of insurance claims. So first things first, Alan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. My first question for you is, what is the most important rule to remember when a claim is notified?
Yeah, really today we can only talk about basics, but the most basic thing that really everyone must remember is to make reserves against the carriers. Get that letter of intent to claim off, holding them responsible out, get an email off straight away to protect the situation.
Sure.
It's important that that is in fact sent regardless, even if the claim has got a question mark over it, if you're not sure there's any damage or not. At least it protects the situation. There's no penalty for alleging you're going to make a claim, even if you don't. So it's a safeguard.
Of course.
The only thing I would say is if it doesn't develop into a claim, close it off with the carrier, just out of courtesy.
Sure. And my next question is, how aware should members be of the time limitations that are involved in
Time limits are really very important, because going back to making those reserves, the situation is if you don't make the reserves within certain times, then the claim is going to be time barred.
Sure.
By way of example, BEFA claims 14 days, CMR claims 7 days, and C claims under Hague-Visby rules are as little as 3 days sometimes.
Sure, so there's a variance and a difference.
Variance, depending on the carrying conditions.
Yeah, but the main thing is members need to be aware of this at the time.
Very much so.
Cool.
Very much so.
So how relevant is it that cargo assurance is in place in the first place?
Again, can't emphasise this enough. I think Robert made reference in a previous review to the fact that roughly only 80% of goods, either on the seas, in the air, are insured,
right, yes.
which means that, that 80% are at risk. It's important for our forwarders, I think, to always make sure that their staff are proactive and offer insurance cover.
Sure.
Offer it. Also, on that front, it's, I think, also very relevant to document the customer reaction. Because if they refuse to insure and say, oh, we're not paying that premium or nothing can happen to my cargo, then if a claim does come along, at least you can, and it's documented, it can be thrown to the customer where he's coming in saying, holding his begging bowl out, please can I have a contribution? You say, well, we did offer you insurance, but you refused.
Sure.
So it's important to document that, I think.
Definitely. And how differently are the freight liability and cargo claims handled?
The differences are mainly the fact that obviously cargo claims are being insured for the full value of the cargo, and you're likely to get a prompt settlement. From bitter experience, if you haven't got a cargo insurance place and you're making a claim against the carrier, that can in fact drag on. I mean, in some cases, I've had claims sort of 6-9 months, even up to 12 months.
Wow.
And you've got a very dissatisfied customer in the meantime when you're trying to bring that claim.
Sure.
The situation is, obviously, there are no time bars with cargo insurance, but insurers expect to be notified of the claim within a reasonable time,
Sure.
whatever that may be, but that's common sense, obviously. It's important that that correspondence with the carrier is there.
Sure.
To make the insurers aware that they've protected their situation and their recovery rights under subrogation are protected when they make the full payment.
Of course. My next question is, do you know if there are any issues that members need to be aware of at the moment that are relevant to their risk exposures?
There are some new risk exposures out there, primarily relating to customs issues.
Okay.
It's important that they check their errors and emissions extension under their freight forwarders policy.
Sure.
To check that customs-related errors are covered. The other point I would make is, as far as that side of things is concerned, is that in the past, freight forwarders have only ever insured against errors and omissions. Freight forwarders are now becoming far more to their customers. They're becoming not like an accountant, but, for example, they're giving advice which takes it beyond errors and omissions, which is usually a paper error.
Sure.
Whereas if you're giving advice, I think forwarders should now be thinking about effecting full professional indemnity insurance rather than just errors and omissions.
Sure. And my final question is, are there any other points that you think members should be aware of in this topic?
Again, I think the BEFA documentation in this regard is very important. There is the document, Insurance and Claims Handling for BIFA members, which is an excellent Bible. And as a follow-on to today, I suggest that our members do look at it, primarily because in there's some excellent draft letters that can be used for following up and doing the initial claim reserves, etc., etc.
Sure.
It's a very handy piece of paper.
Thank you very much for joining us again this morning, Alan. Our members will find your advice so valuable.
My pleasure.
As Alan's mentioned, we do have a good practice guide that's been quoted here, so we'll make sure we'll put a link to that in the description of this video. That's all for today's episode of BeefLink TV, your daily dose of industry information.